Greetings, Algebra 2 students. This is Dr. Heron talking to you about 4.5. Kind of building on what we have been talking about this whole unit, talking about quadratics. So now we're going to take quadratics, we're going to solve them, and we're going to do it by factoring. But before we get into that, I want to take a moment and I want to graph this. So this is kind of a throwback going all the way back to graphing. So y-intercept is just what happens when x equals 0. So you should get y equals -3. So my graph is going to cross right there. The axis of symmetry, that's that negative b over 2 times a. Okay, so this would be like a, this would be b, this would be c. A would be 1, -2, -3. That's just the coefficients, that's just the numbers in front. So it's going to be like -2 over 2 times 1. So that'll cancel out. 2 over 2 is going to equal 1. So my axis of symmetry is where x equals 1, right here. All right, so my vertex is what happens when I put that in, when I substitute that into the equation. So I get 1 squared minus 2 times 1 minus 3. So that's 1 minus 2 minus 3, which is -4. So my vertex is going to be at 1, -4. So my vertex is going to be right there. I match it on the other side, and I sketch my graph. Based on the graph, I feel like my answer is going to be around -1 and 3. Okay? So we're solving by where does it cross the x-axis? Okay, so that is going to be kind of my answer. So now, how can we do this without having to do the graphing? We're going to use something called the zero product property. Okay, zero product property literally says this. If I have two things that multiply to 0, the only way that happens is if the first thing is 0 or the second thing is 0. Okay, or both. All right, so if I've got, x times y equals 0, the only way that works is if x is 0, y is 0, or both. So now if I expand that, if I've got x plus 5 times x minus 7 equals 0, then either the first thing equals 0 or the second thing equals 0. Now, let's take a look here. Okay, solve each quadratic by graphing. So to solve by factoring, not graphing, factoring, I need to get everything to one side and set it equal to 0. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 6x over. Now I'm going to factor just this left side. Okay, so I'm going to pull out what's in common. What's in common is I've got x, and I'm left with x minus 6 once I factor it. Okay, we've talked a lot about factoring. We know it. I split that apart, right? So I've got x times x minus 6 times x. I pull out the x in common. I write what's left. That's factored. So now my solution, this is something multiplied equaling 0. So that means either x equals 0 or x minus 6 equals 0. So x is going to equal 0 or x is going to equal 6, because if x equals 6, then that's 0. Okay, so I set each part together and solve it. So now here, if I bring everything over, subtract 5x, subtract 5x, subtract 14, subtract 14, x squared minus 5x minus 14 equals 0. So factors of 14 that subtract to 5. So that's going to be x, well, it'll be 14 and 1, 2 and 7. I would have to get x minus 7, x plus 2 equals 0. So x is going to either x minus 7 equals 0 or x plus 2 equals 0. So x equals 7 or x equals -2. That's going to be my answer. Now, let's kind of keep this going. As we go through this, realize that, I could have more than one answer. I could have one answer, or I could have zero answers, and we'll kind of get to that in a moment. But let's start with this. What multiplies to 64 but adds up to negative 16? That's going to be x minus 8 and x minus 8. So x minus 8 equals 0, so x equals 8 only. So what does that mean? Okay, well, so far, the ones we've been working on, we're talking about where does it cross the x-axis. Okay, that's what we're figuring out. That's where this thing equals 0. That's what we're figuring out. This is where y equals 0. So now this situation, what this is kind of representing is saying is where x equals 8, I come down, touch it right there at 8 once, and take back off. So I technically only cross that one time, okay? Now, number 4, 3x squared minus 9x equals 0. So I'm going to factor out 3x, and I'm left with x minus 3. So 3x equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0. So x is going to be 0, or x is going to equal 3. So what that means on the graph is I've got zeros there and there. My x is going to be somewhere in between, and it's going to open up wherever that vertex is. But I'm more interested in where are the zeros. So let's keep going. Now, I put things in front of x squared. That gets a little trickier. So if I bring everything over to one side, so subtract 1, add x. So I'm going to factor that. Well, multiplies to negative 6, but adds up to 1. So I got negative 6 and 1, and I get 2 and 3. So that's going to be a positive 3 and a negative 2. So I'm going to rewrite that as 6x squared. 3 times negative 2 gets me negative 6. So I want 6x squared plus 3x minus 2x minus 1. All still equals 0. This is where I split that. Now, parentheses are on the first two. 3x, x plus 1. Nothing over here is in common, so I'm going to pull, but I am going to pull out a negative 1. Sorry, that should be a 2x. So I'm going to pull out a negative 1, 2x plus 1 equals 0. These are the same. 3x minus 1, 2x plus 1 equals 0. So x equals 1/3. X is going to equal negative 1/2. There's my answers. Okay, those are my solutions. A little bit tougher, a little bit trickier, but still doable. So x squared minus 25. Okay, this is where there's like a 0x in the middle. Okay, so what multiplies to negative 25 but gets you to 0? Well, you have 25 and 1, and you have 5 and 5. So if I go x minus 5 and x plus 5, that equals 0. So I set each part equal to 0. So x is going to equal 5, x is going to equal negative 5. Now, working backwards here. I've got the roots, I've got the zeros in front of me. Now I need to write a quadratic equation. So I've got x equals 5 negative and x equals 7. So what I want to say is kind of work backwards. I'm going to say, you know what, that means x plus 5 equals 0 and x minus 7 equals 0. All I did was add 5 and subtract 7 to both sides. So now that means I want to take x plus 5 times x minus 7 and multiply that back. So first, outside, inside, last. So my final answer in this case, because I'm looking for a quadratic equation, is going to be that. B is very similar, so I'm going to have x equals negative 1/3 and x equals 4. So I'm going to have x plus 1/3 equals 0 and x minus 4 equals 0. Now, to make my life easier on this one, I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. Okay, why do I do that? I do that because when I distribute this, I will get 3x plus 1 still equaling 0. That will make my life way easier. So now, since they're both equal to 0, so I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to multiply those. And then I'm going to multiply everything back. So 3x squared minus 12x plus x minus 4 equals 0. So 3x squared minus 11x minus 4 equals 0. And the last one, pulling it straight off the graph. This is 0, this is 4, positive 4. So I've got x equals 0, and I've got x equals 4. So I've got x minus 4 equals 0. I'm still keeping that. So I'm going to take x times x minus 4, and I'm just going to distribute it. X squared minus 4x. There's my quadratic. That's what I'm looking for. So, height of a parallelogram is 4 millimeters more than its base. That's right, geometry never fully goes away, so we've got a parallelogram. The height is 4 more than the base. The area is 221. Figure out the base and height. So the height is 4 more than the base, so b times b plus 4 equals 221. So that means b squared plus 4b equals 221. Just distribute that. So b squared plus 4b minus 221 equals 0. So now here's what I have to think about. Play around factors of 221 that will subtract to get me 4. So I can start playing around with numbers and dividing and see what might work. Okay, 3 does not work. All right, 6 does not work. 8 does not work. 11 does not work. 13 and 17 work. So I want to have b plus 17 and b minus 13. Okay, so b plus 17, b minus 13. So I set each part equal to 0. Zero product property. Okay. That thing shows up a lot. So I'm going to have either b equals negative 17 or b equals 13. But only one of those answers makes sense because I've got an actual length. So I cannot have a negative there. Okay, that does not work. So my base will be 13. Base will be 13 plus 4, or height will be 13 plus 4. So that's going to be 17. Okay, last problem, loading. Height of a triangle, 3 meters less than its base. So I've got a triangle, okay? The base is here, the height is b minus 3. Area of the triangle is 44. So remember, that's going to be base times height divided by 2 is 44. So I'll multiply both by 2, distribute. So b squared minus 2b equals 88. So now pull everything over, factor it, what multiplies to negative 88 and subtracts to, or multiplies to 88 but subtracts to 2. Okay, so you got 2 and 44. You've got 4 and 22. So you've got 11 and 8. You know what? My apologies. I screwed that up. That's supposed to be 3 meters less. So that should have been a 3. 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 Oh, that is my fault. So 8 and 11 are what I want. Okay, so 8 and 11 are what I want. So I want b minus 11, b plus 8, equals 0. So either b minus 11 equals 0 or b plus 8 equals 0. So b equals 11 or b equals negative 8. Or b minus 11, b plus 8. So I want b to be 11. B cannot equal 8. So my base is 11. My height then is going to be 8. And there's my answer. Sorry about the confusion on that one. But if you have any questions, please come talk to me and we can get it straightened out. Thank you.